Welcome, everyone. This is a short video in 3 parts introducing the Online Readings in Psychology and Culture, the ORPC, and its editorial board. In part 1, we want to provide you with a brief overview of who is on the editorial board. Feel free to reach out to us with questions. More details can be found in the video description below. Hi, Katja. Thanks for being here. To get us started, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm a German with a migrant background. My mother's from South Korea and my father is German. I've been involved in cross-cultural research for almost 20 years. And my main concern is about applying the appropriate research methods for conducting cross-cultural research properly and meaningfully.
Thanks. Over to you, Yasin.
I'm a social psychologist living in the Netherlands. I'm originally from Turkey and have been through one layer of acculturation in the UK during my PhD. And I try to understand how minority group members navigate their stigmatized identities through privileged systems in my research.
Thank you, Yasin. Can you continue, Adrian?
Sure. I was born in Romania. Currently, I live in Germany for about 10 years, and my partner is from Brazil. So for me, culture and psychology are salient in the way I think and what I do. So they are basically tools in navigating life and also doing research, of course.
Thanks, Adrian. Chuck, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yes. I was born in the US, but my father's parents were from a German village in Russia, leading me to wonder about the meaning of ethnic identity. So I created a course called Diverse Identities, in which I explore ethnic identity and many other kinds of identity, and began researching identities, as well as conducting cross-cultural research on intimate relationships.
Thanks, Chuck. Let me briefly introduce myself. I'm Michael. I'm an ethnic German. I did, however, my master's thesis in Hong Kong, my PhD in Osnabrück, so in Germany again. Then I did my postdoc in New York, and after that I went to the Netherlands, where I'm settled now and where my kids, both born here, really have a lot of fun mocking me for my bad Dutch. Over to you, Wolfgang.
Yeah, I was born, raised, and got also my training in Germany. But then I moved to Michigan, US, here as Grand Valley State offered me a position as a cross-cultural psychologist. Yeah, I always love to travel in a way, in a non-tourist way, rather immersing in various cultures, and combining this passion with psychology was a discovery for me, and I really jumped on it and got involved. My wife is from Romania, and both of our children were born here in the US.
Last, but certainly not least, Walt, can you say a few things about yourself?
Yes, I'm a United States citizen, born in the state of Montana, which not too many people see. I have a PhD from the University of Minnesota. I'm a retired professor of psychology, Western Washington University. I was the founding editor of the Journal of Cross-Cultural Psychology and of the Online Readings. And I'm a charter member of the International Association for Cross-Cultural Psychology, and therefore a career-long cross-cultural psychologist.
Thanks, everybody. All right, over to the next question. Do you remember when you heard about the ORPC for the first time and what motivated you to become a part of it? I'm not going to ask Walt for obvious reasons. You're getting a slightly different question. But let's start with you, Katja.
ORPC has always been a great resource for me when I did my PhD in New Zealand. And when I started teaching myself, I used quite a few articles as required readings for my students. My motivation to become part of the editorial board was to add diversity and to be a service to the cross-cultural and intercultural community.
Yasin.
Coming from a disadvantaged country, we did not have a lot of access to journals and articles from these journals. And luckily, during my undergraduate in Turkey, I benefited from ORPC chapters in my assignments. So that was extremely valuable for me to have open access to several seminal overview papers in the field. That's how I got to know ORPC.
Adrian?
Thanks. Much like Yasin, I was relying in my studies a lot on ORPC papers, especially the one by Schwartz published in 2012. So when the call for associate editors was published in 2020, I knew that I had found a community that shares my values and goals, both as a person and as an academic. So I felt the need to get involved.
What about you, Chuck?
I learned about ORPC while attending IACCP conferences around the world for more than 2 decades. And there I met colleagues that I valued and was invited to serve on the board.
I became aware of the ORPC when I started doing my PhD at the University of Osnabrück, because I had the privilege of having Heidi Keller as my department head and my official promoter. And she has very strong ties to the IACCP as one of the former presidents. The main turning point for me, however, was at the IACCP in Melbourne in 2010. And I very vividly remember that at the general reception of that conference, I was standing outside talking with Walt and talking about the need for knowledge to be accessible. So this is really one of the things that I very vividly remember and that gave me a lot of energy. Wolfgang, over to you.
Yeah, I think I became familiar with the ORPC when I started teaching here at Grand Valley Psychology and Culture. I used some articles, but really to dig deeper in ORPC, that started 2010. My colleague at this time, John Adamopoulos, who was a member of IACCP, he asked me whether I would like to take care of ORPC and become the editor, because Walt planned to step more into the background.
Thanks, Wolfgang. So this concludes a brief introduction of who we are and what our experience is when we heard about the ORPC for the first time. We will take a brief look back at the history of the ORPC in part 2. Either click just on the next video or check the video description below on how to reach us.